One moment she was standing in a room full of smiling faces. The next moment, her entire life collapsed in front of everyone watching. Phones came out. People whispered. No one stepped in to help. But what the room didn't realize was that someone powerful had been watching the whole thing unfold. And by the next morning, the people who thought they had destroyed her life were about to learn something terrifying. They had humiliated the wrong woman. Welcome to Endless Story Diaries. Before we continue this story, take a moment and let me know in the comments where you're watching from. If this story has you hooked so far, give the video a like and share it with someone who loves intense romance stories. And hit that subscribe button so you don't miss what comes next. Ruby Johnson learned to keep her head down in glass buildings. On the 34th floor of Halcyon Systems, everything was polished silent elevators, chrome coffee machines, carpet that swallowed footsteps. People smiled with their mouths and measured you with their eyes. Ruby had been there 18 months in accounts payable, where numbers mattered more than people. That suited her. She wasn't trying to be famous. She was trying to be steady. The one person who had made the place feel human was Albert Reed from business development, loud, charming, always acting like the day was a little brighter because he'd decided so. He'd found Ruby during her first week and carried her drink like it was the most natural thing in the world. After that, he kept finding reasons to stop by her desk. They tried to keep it quiet. Halcyon loved gossip the way it loved quarterly charts. Still, Ruby let herself believe it could be simple. Albert talked about the future like it was already mapped out. He joked about rings, then stopped calling it a joke. He promised her weekends away once his next deal closed. He said her calm made him feel safe. So when the invitation went out for a quarterly win celebration, Ruby assumed it would be dry sliders and forced laughter. She wore a navy dress, fixed her braids into a low bun, and followed Albert into a downtown event space dressed up like a ballroom. A Halcyon Future Forward banner hung over the stage. Executives clustered in expensive suits. Phones were already out, ready for pictures nobody really wanted. Albert disappeared into a knot of managers. Ruby hovered at the edge with her drink until her friend Tasha from payroll slipped beside her. "You okay?" Tasha asked. "Why wouldn't I be?" Tasha nodded toward Albert. "He's acting big. Like he's about to do something." Ruby's stomach fluttered. "He didn't tell me anything." Before Tasha could answer, the music dipped. A microphone squealed. Albert was on the stage. Ruby's first thought was that he looked handsome. Her second thought came colder. He wasn't looking at her. "I know this is supposed to be about the quarter," Albert said, smiling like a winner. "But I've got something personal." The room leaned in. More phones lifted. Ruby set her drink down because her hands suddenly felt clumsy. "I've learned a lot here," Albert continued. "About ambition. About choosing the right partner." Ruby's throat tightened with excitement. Then he turned and gestured toward the front row. Layla Hart, marketing director. Glossy hair, white dress. The kind of confidence that came from never being told no. "Leela," Albert said. "You've challenged me. You've made me better. I'm done hiding how I feel." Ruby blinked, waiting for the joke. Waiting for him to swing back toward her with a grin and say he'd messed with everyone. Instead, he stepped off the stage, walked straight to Lila, and dropped to one knee. A scream, then clapping, then laughter that sounded like hunger. Lila covered her mouth, eyes bright, performing surprise like a talent. She nodded. The room erupted. Ruby couldn't move. Her skin went cold, then hot. People began turning, searching for her face like it was the next item on the program. Albert stood and took the mic again. "And before anyone says anything, yes, Ruby and I were together. But it's over. I'm sorry if that's awkward, but it's for the best." He said her name like a footnote. Tasha grabbed Ruby's arm. "Come with me." Ruby pulled free gently. She refused to cry in that room. Not in front of Lila's perfect smile. Not in front of Albert's steady, practiced face. She walked out, shoulders stiff, and made it to the restroom before her lungs remembered how to breathe. In the stall, she pressed her palm to her mouth to keep the sound in. Her phone lit up. "Albert, don't make this messy. Please." Ruby stared until the words blurred. She washed her face, reapplied lip gloss with trembling hands, and left the building without going back inside. The city air felt sharp. She reached her car and sat behind the wheel, keys clenched between her fingers. Another buzz, unknown number. You should resign before Monday. It'll be easier. Ruby read it twice. Then again, slower. Her chest tightened. It wasn't just a breakup. It was a move. Albert hadn't dumped her in private. He'd done it in front of the people who decided promotions and budgets. He'd tied her name to humiliation like a label. At home, Ruby locked the door and slid down against it. The quiet hit her like a second betrayal. On her coffee table sat a folder from work, vendor payments she'd been reviewing. On top was a sticky note in Albert's handwriting from earlier that week. Proud of you. Ruby let out one sharp laugh, then covered her face. By morning, the shock had hardened into fear. Monday was coming, and Albert had just shown he was willing to ruin her at work. And he hadn't done it alone. She checked her email before sunrise, thumb shaking. A calendar invite had been added overnight. Performance alignment, Ruby Johnson, scheduled for 9 a.m. Monday. Hosted by HR and copied to Albert and Lila. No agenda, just that bland title. Ruby opened the company chat app. A new thread in a channel she wasn't in had been screenshotted and forwarded to her by someone anonymous. Her name sat under laughing emojis. Someone had typed, "Guess she thought she was moving up." At the bottom of the screenshot, another line stood out. "Heard the CEO is back in town. He hates mess." Ruby didn't know what that meant, but the way it made her stomach drop told her it mattered. Halcyon CEO, Junji Shin, was a name people said quietly, like the building might repeat it. Ruby had never met him. She only knew he was ruthless and rarely forgot a slight. At all, Monday morning, Ruby dressed like armor black slacks, cream blouse, gold hoops. She walked into Halcyon as if the green light on the badge reader was proof she still belonged. At 8:55 she sat outside the HR conference room. At 8:58 Albert arrived with Lila on his arm, both smiling like they'd won something. Albert didn't acknowledge Ruby until he was close enough to lower his voice. "Be smart," he said. "Don't make this messy." "You already did," Ruby answered. His smile tightened. "Just don't embarrass yourself further." Inside, HR spoke in careful phrases about workplace perception and professional boundaries. Albert performed concern, hands folded, eyes gentle for the room. Then the HR manager slid a paper across the table, a written warning for inappropriate conduct at a company event. Ruby's name typed in bold. Ruby's pulse jumped. "I didn't do anything." "Ruby," Albert said softly. "You were upset. People noticed." "I walked out," Ruby said. "That's it." The HR manager's voice stayed smooth. "We're documenting. For everyone's protection." Ruby understood the translation. They were building a file. Albert nudged the pen toward her. "Just sign to acknowledge." Ruby pushed it back. "I won't sign a lie." A quiet pause, heavy with threat. "Then we'll note your refusal," HR said. Ruby stood. Her knees shook, but she didn't let them see it. "Note whatever you want." In the hallway, Tasha from payroll waited, eyes shining with anger. "They're trying to write you up," she hissed. "I know. I heard Lila bragging," Tasha said. "She said you'll be gone by Friday." Ruby's throat tightened. It wasn't heartbreak anymore. It was eviction. Back at her desk, her inbox flooded urgent requests, sudden deadlines, messages that sounded polite but felt like hands pushing her toward the edge. Around noon her manager leaned over her cubicle wall. "Ruby," he said, not meeting her eyes. "The executive floor wants you. Now." The elevator ride up was too quiet. When the doors opened, the hallway looked brighter, cleaner, emptier. A woman in a gray suit approached. "Ruby Johnson?" she asked. "Yes. I'm Mina Shin. Please follow me." The surname landed hard. Shin. Mina guided Ruby into a waiting area with a city view that felt like a reminder. This company was bigger than her pain. Through a glass wall, Ruby saw a man standing with his back to her, hands clasped behind him, watching the skyline like it was a screen showing his next move. When he turned, Ruby recognized him from the website photos and immediately understood how little those photos had captured. Junji Shin, Halcyon CEO. He was tall, composed, dressed in black without a tie, face calm in a way that made calm look dangerous. His gaze settled on Ruby, steady and unreadable, like he was weighing the truth without needing to ask for it. Mina opened the door. "Sir, she's here." "Thank you," he said. "Leave us." Ruby walked in because not walking in wasn't an option. "Ms. Johnson," Junji said. "Sit." Ruby sat. He tapped a folder on his desk. "You were issued a warning this morning." "Yes." "Did you deserve it?" "No." Silence stretched. Ruby held his gaze, refusing to shrink. Finally, he spoke again. "Security footage shows you left quietly," he said. "No disturbance. No confrontation." Ruby blinked. "Then why are they?" "Because perception can be manufactured," he said. "And because people like Albert Reed enjoy control?" The name left his mouth like he'd already decided what it meant. Ruby's stomach tightened. "You know him." "I know what he's been doing," Junji said. "And I don't like my company being used as someone's stage." Ruby felt her pulse in her throat. "So why am I here?" Junji slid another folder forward. "I'm offering you a position. Executive assistant." Ruby stared. "I'm in accounts payable." "I know where you sit," he said almost casually. "I also know you caught an overbilling pattern last month and saved Halcyon significant money. You did it without demanding credit." Ruby's fingers curled around the chair arm. She hadn't told anyone that detail. "I need someone discreet," Junji continued. "Competent. Someone who doesn't panic when threatened." Ruby swallowed. "Why me?" His eyes didn't soften. "Because hiring you will remind Albert Reed that he miscalculated." The honesty hit like a slap and a lifeline at the same time. "So you're hiring me to humiliate him?" Ruby said. "I'm hiring you because you're qualified," Junji replied. "The effect on Albert is useful." Mina returned with a contract packet. Ruby's name was already printed. The salary made her dizzy. The start date was today. Thick non-disclosure clauses stacked like warnings. Ruby stared at the signature line. If she signed, she would be in the center of whatever war Albert had started. If she didn't, she would be pushed out quietly while he rewrote the story. Ruby signed. Mina collected the papers. "Your workstation will be prepared," she said. "You'll shadow me this afternoon." Ruby stood still unsteady. "Mr. Shin." "Junji," he corrected. "In private." Heat rose to Ruby's cheeks before she could stop it. As she turned to leave, Junji spoke again, voice low. "People will tell you stories about me. Ignore them. Watch what I do." Outside the office, Mina leaned close. "Do not let anyone bait you," she warned. "They will try." "Why are you telling me this?" Ruby asked. Mina's expression flickered. "Because Albert Reed is not the most dangerous person you just crossed." Ruby glanced back at the closed door to Junji Shin's office. For the first time since the ballroom, fear loosened its grip. Something else took its place, sharp, unfamiliar, and dangerously hopeful. On her way back downstairs to clear her desk, Ruby's phone buzzed again from the same unknown number. "Careful. Shin doesn't collect assistance. He collects leverage." The elevator reflection looked steadier than she felt. She remembered Junji's eyes dropping to her trembling fingers before he slid a glass of water toward her. Quiet. Protective, like he'd noticed what he wouldn't admit. By Tuesday, everyone knew. Ruby's old cubicle was already stripped, her nameplate gone. When she walked onto the executive floor with Mina, assistants paused mid-sentence. A director's smile faltered when he recognized her. Mina didn't slow down. "Invisible when you're not needed," she said, sliding a badge across the desk that read Executive Suite. "Uncheckable when you are." Ruby clipped it on and tried to steady her breathing. Her new workstation sat outside Junji's office, close enough to feel his presence even through the closed door. At 9:12, Albert Reed showed up. He walked in with his usual confidence until he saw Ruby at the CEO's outer desk. His face emptied, then filled again with a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Ruby stood. Good morning, Mr. Reed. Do you have an appointment? Ruby, Albert said, voice low. Can we talk? Mr. Shin is in a meeting, Ruby replied. If you need time, I can schedule. Albert leaned closer. Did you run upstairs and cry to him? Step back, Ruby said. He gave a soft laugh. So this is what you're doing? Getting hired as the CEO's pet. The office door opened. Jung Ji-ai stepped out in a black suit, no tie, calm like he'd been expecting this exact scene. His gaze went to Albert, then to Ruby, then back again. Reed, he said. Albert straightened. Sir, I was just... You were looming over my assistant, Junji said. If you need something, you ask through her. If you can't manage that, you leave. The word assistant landed with ownership. Albert's jaw tightened. Understood, he said, and walked away without looking at Ruby. Ruby sat back down, hands shaking. Mina didn't lift her eyes from her screen. Don't give him emotion, she murmured. It's what he came for. At 10 o'clock, Ruby entered her first executive meeting. She took notes while Jung Ji-ai ran the room with quiet precision. Albert presented a partnership pitch, smooth and confident. The same voice he'd used to make Ruby believe he meant forever. Jung Ji-ai let him finish, then asked one question. Who approved your projections? I did the modeling myself, Albert said, smiling. Jung Ji-ai turned slightly. Miss Johnson, read the finance validation note on churn assumptions. Ruby's stomach dipped, but she'd read the packet twice. She found the line and spoke clearly. Assumptions do not align with historical performance. Model does not account for current contract penalty clauses. Silence cut the table. Albert's smile cracked. That's from an early draft. Then submit the revised model, Jung Ji-ai said. Until then, the proposal is paused. Albert swallowed hard. Everyone saw it. After the meeting, Albert caught Ruby in the hallway. You really want to play this game? He hissed. Ruby kept walking. I'm doing my job. Albert grabbed her wrist. A calm voice stopped him. Read. Albert froze, hand dropping as if burned. Jung Ji-ai hadn't raised his voice. He didn't move closer. He didn't need to. Touch my staff again, Jung Ji-ai said, and we'll discuss your employment. Humiliation flared across Albert's face, then rage. Understood, he said through his teeth and walked away. Ruby stood still, heart hammering. Jungi's gaze flicked to her wrist. Did he hurt you? He asked. No, Ruby said. He tried. If anyone puts hands on you again, you tell me, Jung Ji-ai said. Ruby nodded. Yes, sir. A pause. Jung Ji-ai, he corrected, quieter. Ruby's cheeks warmed. Yes, Jung Ji-ai. For a second, something shifted in his expression, almost a smile, but restrained. The work piled up fast. Ruby learned the CEO's calendar, the rhythm of meetings, the way executives tried to bully assistants because they couldn't bully the person behind the door. Ruby said no with polite sentences and steady eyes. Each solved problem made her feel less like a visitor in someone else's life. By evening, the floor emptied. Mina left. The lights dimmed. Ruby was finishing notes when Jung Ji-ai stepped out, jacket off, sleeves rolled to his forearms. You're still here, he said. I lost track of time, Ruby admitted. He glanced at the folders. You did well today. The praise landed clean, no flirtation, no demand. Ruby felt her shoulders loosen. Thank you, she said. He held out a small paper bag. You skipped lunch. Ruby blinked. How did you? Mina notices, he replied, as if that explained it. Eat. Ruby took the bag. Her fingers brushed his for a second, brief as a spark. Junji's gaze dropped to the contact, then lifted again, unreadable. Get home safely, he said. Ruby nodded and packed up quickly, suddenly aware of the quiet hallway, of the fact that it was just them and the hum of the building. In the elevator, her phone buzzed unknown number again. He's watching you. Not Albert. Him. Ruby's stomach turned cold. She stared at the message until the doors opened on the lobby. Outside, the night air felt sharper than before. Someone was trying to make her afraid of Junji. And that meant someone was close enough to see when he fed her, when he protected her, when his restraint slipped for half a second. Ruby walked to her car without looking over her shoulder, but she felt eyes on her anyway. Halfway home, Ruby noticed the same black SUV in her mirror through 3 turns. Her hands tightened on the wheel. She took an exit she didn't need, then another. Testing. The SUV stayed. Her phone rang, no caller ID, she didn't answer. It rang again, then a text appeared from Mina. Are you alone? Before Ruby could type, another message came from an unfamiliar number labeled simply J. Pull into the Riverside gas station. Stay in the car. Ruby's pulse jumped. She hadn't given Junji her number. She did what the message said anyway. 2 minutes later, Junji's silver sedan slid beside her pump like it belonged there. He didn't get out. He just looked over, phone to his ear, and the black SUV rolled past the station once, then disappeared into traffic, as if warned away. For good. Ruby barely slept after the gas station. At work the next morning, Mina met her at the elevator with a new access card. Underground garage now, she said. Different route every day. Ruby's mouth went dry. Is this normal? For most people, Mina replied. No. Ruby tried to focus, but tension lived under her skin. At 11:17, an email hit her inbox from compliance. Request for information urgent. Attached was a PDF labeled evidence packet. Ruby opened it and felt the blood drain from her face. It was a screenshot of an internal acquisition memo. Across the bottom, the system watermark read, printed by Ruby Johnson. Ruby's hands went cold. She hadn't printed anything. She hadn't even opened that file. Mina appeared beside her desk as if she'd sensed the change in air. She scanned the page, then said, do not reply. Forward it to me. Now. Ruby forwarded it, fingers shaking. They're setting me up. Yes, Mina said. And they want you panicked. Through the glass wall later, Ruby spotted Albert in the corridor. Laughing with an older man Ruby didn't recognize, white hair, sharp suit, the kind of face that didn't waste kindness. When Albert noticed Ruby watching, he smiled and lifted a small wave like they were sharing a secret. Ruby looked away, nauseated. That afternoon, Junji called Ruby into his office alone. The door shut softly, the quiet suddenly intimate. He held the printed email in his hand. You didn't do this, he said. It wasn't a question. No, Ruby answered. I swear. I believe you, he said, simple and immediate. Ruby hated how much she needed those words. Someone used your credentials, Junji continued. Or tried to. Ruby remembered the black SUV. So the following, the messages, this is about you. Junji didn't deny it. It's about what I'm doing. What are you doing? Ruby asked. His gaze held hers, assessing. I'm shutting down a leak inside Halcyon, he said. Information is being fed to a competitor. Ruby's chest tightened. Albert is useful to someone, Junji said. That usually means he's compromised. Ruby's voice came out thin. Then why put me in the middle? Junji's jaw flexed once. Because he targeted you publicly. He made you a story. I changed the story. That provoked whoever is behind him. Ruby absorbed it with a cold clarity. So I'm bait. You're protected, Junji said, sharper than before. Don't confuse strategy with disposal. Ruby swallowed. Who is the competitor? Kung Holdings, he replied. Ruby knew the name. An empire that bought companies the way people bought coffee. She felt the edges of panic return. Why are they? They're after leverage, Junji said. Not you. What you represent. He moved to the window, then back, voice quieter. People talk about me, he said. They call me a mafia boss. They claim my family brought old war debts to America. Most of it is noise. Some of it is useful. Ruby's skin prickled. Are you telling me to be afraid of you? I'm telling you not to be naive, he said. Fear the ones who hide behind paperwork and smiles. Ruby forced herself to breathe. I'm scared. I know. His eyes lingered steady. Look at me. Ruby did. Do you trust me? He asked. Logic screamed at her to protect herself. A week wasn't trust, but he'd believed her without hesitation. He'd stopped Albert's hand. He'd shown up in the night without making it a show. Yes, Ruby said, voice quiet. I do. Junjia's expression softened for a flicker. Good. Then do what Maina tells you. And do not speak to Albert alone. Ruby nodded. Okay. As she turned to leave, Junji spoke again. Ruby. It was the first time he'd said her name without a title. It landed warm. I didn't hire you to ruin your ex, he said. That's what people will assume. Ruby looked back, heart beating too fast. Then why? Junji stepped closer, not touching, just closing the space until Ruby could feel the heat of him. Because when he tried to break you, you didn't beg, he said. You just left. That strength is rare. Ruby's eyes stung. His voice dropped. And because I wanted you near me. The words hit like a soft impact. Ruby's breath caught. For a second, the office felt too small for how loud her heartbeat was. A knock. Mina entered without waiting. Sir, she said brisk. Security flagged a remote request to access Miss Johnson's apartment building cameras. The IP traces to Kong Holdings. Ruby's skin went cold. Junji's gaze snapped to her, anger flaring but not at her. Pack your things, he said. Where are we going? Ruby whispered. Junji's voice stayed controlled. Somewhere they can't reach you. And Ruby understood, finally, that whatever war was happening around Halcyon had already stepped into her life. Whether she wanted it or not. Mina moved fast. Within an hour, Ruby was in the underground garage with a small box of desk items and a bag she'd packed in the restroom, hands still trembling. Two security men Ruby hadn't seen before opened the back door of Junji's sedan without speaking. Ruby slid in and stared at the tinted window. Is this necessary? Junji got in beside her. Close enough that his knee brushed hers when he reached forward to speak to the driver. Yes, he said. Kong doesn't bluff when they think they can win. They drove without conversation until Ruby's phone lit up with a push notification from her building's app. Motion detected at Unit 12B door. Video unavailable. Ruby's stomach dropped. That's my apartment. Junji's hand closed over hers, firm and warm, stopping her from shaking the phone to pieces. You're not going back tonight, he said. The car turned into a private garage beneath a high-rise. An elevator opened into a quiet, expensive space that smelled like clean linen and safety. This is mine, Junji said. One rule: stay on this floor. Everything else I handle. No arguments. Ruby stood in Junji's penthouse kitchen in borrowed clothes Mina had produced like she'd planned it. The city lights beyond the windows looked far away. Inside, everything was quiet except for Ruby's heartbeat. Mina set a new phone on the counter. New number, she said. Only internal contacts. Ruby's mouth went dry. Someone tried my door? Tool marks, Mina confirmed. No entry. A black SUV outside. You'll stay on this floor tonight. When Mina left, the penthouse felt too large. Ruby drifted to the window, staring down at streets that didn't know her fear. Behind her, Junji moved quietly, checking his phone, refusing to let panic take over the room. Ruby finally spoke. So this is because of your enemies. Junji's jaw tightened once. Kong Holdings, he said. They've had someone inside my company for a long time. Albert, Ruby whispered. Albert is part of it, Junji replied. A courier who thinks he's a king, Ruby's anger flared. He humiliated me, then tried to frame me. Junji's eyes stayed on her. He chose the wrong target. Later, when Ruby couldn't sleep, she found Junji in his office. Multiple screens glowed logs, timestamps, camera feeds. He looked up, tired but alert. Tomorrow ends him, he said. Ruby stepped closer, hugging her arms. What do you need from me? I need you in the room, Junji answered. Calm. Scene. My choice. That will pull him toward the edge. Ruby's hands shook, but she nodded. Okay. The next morning, Ruby walked into Halcyon through the underground garage beside Junji. She kept her chin lifted, even when whispers followed them. In the executive conference room, Albert sat with a folder open, smiling like a man who still believed he controlled the story. "You brought her," Albert said, forcing a laugh. "Is this a lesson, sir?" Junji shed a tablet on the table. A video call window appeared with Alan Greer, Kang's consultant, watching with thin amusement. "Shin," Greer said. "Still making noise. Still stealing," Junji replied. Albert's smile wobbled. "This is ridiculous." Junji looked at Ruby. "Miss Johnson." Ruby slid a printed packet across the table. Her voice was steady. "Access logs show Albert Reed downloading and forwarding restricted files," she said. "The prints that carry my name occurred while my badge was registered off-site." Albert snapped. "You're lying because you're bitter." Ruby met his eyes. "You used my name because you thought I couldn't fight back." Junji tapped the tablet again. Security footage filled the screen. Albert alone at night, inserting a USB drive, printing pages, glancing around like a thief. The room went silent. Greer's expression hardened. "Where did you get that?" "From my company," Junji said. Albert shoved his chair back. "This is a setup." The door opened. Corporate security stepped in with legal. "Albert Reed," legal said. "You're suspended pending investigation for theft of proprietary information and attempted credential fraud." Albert's face went pale. His eyes snapped to Ruby, wild. "You did this." Ruby's voice stayed quiet. "You did this." They escorted Albert out. He tried to throw one last insult at Ruby, but the door shut before the words could settle. The call ended. When the room finally emptied, Ruby realized her legs were shaking. She sat down hard, fingers pressed to her knees. "Your name will be cleared," Junji said. "Today." Relief rushed through Ruby so fast it made her eyes burn. "So it's over," she whispered. "For you," he said. "Yes." Ruby swallowed. "And what happens to me now?" Junji stepped closer, stopping just within Ruby's space. "What do you want?" he asked. Ruby thought of being a headline in someone else's story. "I want my life back," she said. "And I don't want to be used again." Junji's gaze held hers, steady and careful. "Then choose," he said. "Not because you owe me. Because you want to." Ruby's breath caught. "Choose what?" He took a slow breath. "Let me be honest," he said. "I hired you because you were capable. I kept you close because you were unbreakable. And somewhere in the middle of this mess, I fell in love with you." Ruby stared, heart loud in her ears. Junji didn't rush her. "I'm asking for a chance," he said. "Dinner that isn't strategy. You setting the pace, and me proving slowly that I mean it." Ruby's eyes filled. The tears slid down quietly, not from humiliation, but from release. "I don't know how to trust," Ruby whispered. "I know," Junji said. "So we go slow." "I'll wait." Ruby wiped her cheek, breathing through the ache in her chest. "Okay," she said, voice shaking. "Slow." A small, real smile touched his mouth. "Slow," he repeated. He lifted his hand, stopping short, asking without words. Ruby leaned in, letting his palm touch her cheek. Warm, steady. Outside the glass walls, the city kept moving. Inside, Ruby felt something shift, like she'd stepped out of Albert's story and into one she could choose. And Junji stayed close, not as her rescuer, but as the man who had fallen for her quiet strength and finally said it out loud. Ruby took a shaky breath and held his wrist gently, grounding herself in the present. "I can't be someone's trophy," she said. "Not for revenge. Not for optics." Junji nodded immediately. "You won't be," he said. "If you walk away tomorrow, I won't chase you with contracts. I'll just regret it." That answer cracked something open in Ruby. She stepped closer, forehead nearly touching his, and let herself speak the truth she'd been swallowing all week. "I'm still angry," she whispered. "But when you look at me, I don't feel small." Junji's breath hitched. "You were never small." Ruby leaned in and kissed him brief, careful, like a promise instead of a demand. When she pulled back, her eyes were wet but steady. "Dinner," she said softly. "After my name is cleared. Somewhere normal." Junji exhaled, relief and wonder crossing his face. "Somewhere normal," he agreed. And for the first time, Ruby believed normal could be hers. Thank you for listening to this story on Endless Story Diaries. Now I want to hear from you. If you were in Ruby's position, would you have trusted Junji and given him a chance, or would you have walked away after everything that happened? Tell me your thoughts in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like the video, subscribe to Endless Story Diaries, and turn on notifications so you never miss the next powerful story.